Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I'm Simply G and today I'm going to be showing off all of the anime and related merchandise, etc. That I got for this month of September. And oh my goodness, where has the time gone? I truly cannot tell you. But there's a little bit to get through. So rather than spend too much time on this, I'm going to get straight into it and I hope you guys enjoy. So first up, I have some merchandise, the same kind of merchandise I think people are used to seeing from me, because I paid for my Japanese proxy, and it so happened that all of these items had been released, because they are, I don't know if seasonal is quite right, the word, but I got not one, not two, but 3 free birthday promotion clear files. All for characters who have their birthday in the month of August, which is Nagisa, Hazuki, yeah, cute Natsuya, older brother of Ikuya, who has his birthday the 20th of August, which coincidentally, nobody cares, but is actually also my dad's birthday. And then Now, who is Natsu's best friend, and his birthday is literally 1 week later, the 27th of August. So yeah, nice to have those 3. Some of the other ones, I feel like maybe another character has already been released. There's certainly others that have been ordered. But yeah, I only had one of this set so far because literally only one had been released so far, which was Haru in the end of June. Yes, June 30th is his birthday, I think. So yeah, getting a little deeper into this current birthday art promotional trend for 2020. Next, we have an art book. This is, well, both of them are new, because I did get 2. But the first one is for a mangaka whom people may recognize her more popular work, which recently got a film adaptation. But this is Q by Kaneki. So she's a BL mangaka primarily, and her most popular title, this one has just gotten a film adaptation, which I am excited to watch because I like this manga a whole bunch, and you can actually read it digitally from, is it Iranta who put it out? I can't really remember. But it is available to read if you're wanting to and you don't mind digital releases. But I really love her art style. I love the softness of the moments that her artwork is able to capture. I love the use of color. And yeah, really, really happy to have this one. It's also a hardcover art book release, which isn't unusual, but it is not typical for a lot of art books. Normally you just get sort of paperback releases, which is fine. But it does mean that this one is a little bit pricier, I think, comparatively to some other art books that are available. But definitely worth the money, especially if you're a fan of Kaneki. And yeah, really, really, really nice. The other art book that I got is more related to anime, although it is also a mangaka art book, and this is the Fruits Basket first season illustrations. So this is a collection of Takuya's artwork that she's done whilst the first season of the Fruits Basket reboot has been being released. I'm sure we'll see a second one of these for the second season and third for the third. So you can see the artwork and then sort of which episode it corresponds to, what happens in that episode, things like that. It is, of course, in the newer style, her newer style of illustration, just because, well, that's how she draws now, which was not really the style that early Fruits Basket, the stuff that this part of the story is adapting. But some really interesting, I mean, none of these artworks, some can be very, very, simplistic or sparse, which is, I mean, very purposeful. I think it's meant to capture certain emotions. They're very evocative of that. But yeah, very lovely. I like this book in particular. There is a older, larger Fruits Basket art book from like 2004-ish, which does have a lot more of her old style illustration if you're wanting to pick that one up. But yeah, this one is cheap because it is teensy. It's the same size as a Japanese tankobon. So obviously, if you're in Japan, it will probably match the books that you own if you own the singles. But yeah, really happy to have it, and I'm looking forward to the subsequent releases with the subsequent seasons of these little art books. Okay, so next we're going to start with some anime. So the first thing I got was a UK release. I've got a couple UK releases here, and some Australian, American, so interesting mix. But this one is the second half of a series that I picked up the first half a little while ago. I don't remember if it was last month or the month before. But this is March Comes in Like a Lion, Season 1, Part 2. And this, you can probably tell, is still in its plastic. So I can't show you everything just because I don't want to open it until I have to watch it. But this is a manga adaptation, a series done by Chika Umino of Honey and Clover popularity. And this follows a disillusioned shogi player who comes to like learn more about himself and appreciate his life and the people around him through the 3 young women / girls. He doesn't live with them, but they constantly invite him over and they kind of look after him. So it's 3 sisters, the oldest being a similar age to him, so in her 20s. The middle one is in high school or middle school, I can't quite remember. And then the third is a young girl in elementary school. And they are the positive counterbalance to his pessimism and negativity. And through their friendship, they kind of bully him into attending meals with them. And through such, he kind of gains more self-confidence and finds a place where he can be himself and to heal and to feel better about his situation, which as a professional shogi player has put him under a lot of stress up until now and has kind of pushed him away from the game a lot. So yeah, wonderful little series. I highly recommend the show. It is available in its entirety. There's 2 seasons on Netflix and other streaming services, but I'm sure most people have Netflix. Both seasons have been released in the US by Aniplex of America, so pricier releases, and in a similar way that the UK did it, where it's in 2 halves, because both seasons are 24, 26 episodes, something along those lines. So it's a longer show, but it is also not a complete adaptation. The manga is still ongoing. But yeah, really, really wonderful. It directed by Shimbo, who you may know from like Monogatari or Madoka or any of those Shaft shows. So stylistically it feels very much his, which initially kind of off-put me because of how different and how much softer Honey and Clover and Uno style is comparatively, but it doesn't. Over time I did kind of warm to it. I did feel better about it, but when this series was first releasing, I didn't watch it, mainly because I was burnt out on Shimbo and his directorial style. But yeah, that's not to say that it's a bad show. It really isn't. But yeah, definitely give it a shot. If not buying it, because it's a huge investment, especially if you're in the US, then stream it, and I hope you enjoy it. It's very much like Honey and Clover, you know, an emotional drama with a strong undercurrent of friendship and acceptance and finding yourself, but with shogi. Next, we have another UK release. This is another Anime Limited release, and this is Knowing to Your Other Self. I haven't actually watched this yet. It's a sci-fi series, sci-fi drama, that I've heard lots of good things about. This was also released in a limited edition, or re-released in a limited edition by Funimation a couple years ago now. I think is definitely out of print. But this is the UK release, so like typical Anime Limited style, we have Digipack with the discs, this being a 3-disc release, 24 episodes, and then it also comes with a bunch of postcards, which I'm not going to get out, but you can see there's like quite a few there. And as I said, I've never seen this. I still haven't watched this, but I've heard nothing but good things. A couple people have recommended this to me, who have very similar tastes to mine, or who love the series. And this release was pretty cheap. I found a pretty good deal on it, so I wanted to get it whilst I still could, basically. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this. I don't really know anything about this series, so I'm sorry about that. I can't really give any sort of synopsis, but it's one that has had very high reputation amongst the people who have seen it. It definitely has a sort of beloved cult classic style of vibe, I think. People really seem to dig this one, especially considering that it did get a limited edition re-release on Blu-ray when Funimation put it out. So obviously there's some interest there. And so, yeah, really looking forward to watching this one. It's probably one of the next ones that I'm going to be watching. I haven't been watching a huge amount of anime recently just because I haven't had a huge amount of time. I've been focusing on some other stuff, but this is one of my next go-tos to try it out and hopefully finish it and love it. Next is a limited edition release that is, so this I bought locally here in Australia, and you can tell that it's the Australian release, but it was distributed and I guess published and is the exact same as the US release and the UK release, because they are all Funimation is the distributor, so it's the Funimation release, I think, regardless of territory or region that it's being published in. So this is season 2 of Mob Psycho 100, one of my absolute favorite series from the last couple years, a phenomenal sequel, and my favorite of One's manga adaptation. So the limited edition, it looks pretty much exactly identical to the US one, but the only difference I think is that the artwork insert has our ratings logo on it. It's the same discs, I'm sure, and has all the same content and whatever, but it uses the standard edition Australian release inside of the case rather than the US release, which wouldn't have this MA logo on it. So we have the discs, Blu-ray, DVD. You get an art book, which seems to be a lot of interviews and stuff, as well as just art. And then, like the first season, the dreaded filler box full of stuff that I don't care about. Enamel pin, art cards, phone charm, and patches. At least there is no spoon this time. That's all I gotta say. Oh my god, so much guff. Okay, so we've got Shigeo's head as a pin for some reason. There's 2 patches, logo and Reagan. What's this? Oh, dimple, little keychain. That's just, what is? Iron-on patch instructions, as if. And then postcards of whatever else. So when I bought the first season of this show, I was really annoyed because I've said this before, and I'm sure long-time viewers know that I really dislike physical pack-in extras that go beyond like postcards or like a folded poster or an art book, stuff that like takes up space and within the box. And then I will never use. Like, I will never use this stuff. And so it's just a wasted cost for me. So I said that I was going to buy the standard edition for Mob Psycho Season 2 because the first season has space. Because of the filler box, it has space for Season 2. And I was just going to do that. And I may still just do that, take these and then put it into the first season's box. But when they did release the promo packaging shots for Mob Psycho, I was like, I really like this artwork that they used. I really like this box. So I may actually just use this in like decoration or whatever, and then put the actual discs in the first season's box because I don't care about any of the like actual extras or anything. I'll take the art book out probably and try and stick it in there as well. But I kind of reneged on what I said, but it's extenuating circumstances, and I wouldn't, unless you're a huge fan of Mob Psycho 100 already, and you find the limited edition for like a reduced price, or you're really into limited editions. This is not, I wouldn't say these limited editions are necessary, but I'm definitely of the viewpoint that first and foremost, it's the show that I'm buying more than the packaging. I say as someone who makes my own packaging, but it is really nice having a lovely box. I just wish that Funimation didn't put in a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't care about, like pins and iron-on patches and things like that. Or if you're gonna do it, don't make a huge thick box with the space for the filler box in there, and do it more so like Gridman, SSSS Gridman had their filler box on the outside. I know people complained about that, but at least then it doesn't affect the actual box size. Shelf space is important. So I think Funimation was tending towards that, and I haven't seen another series that they've done that for recently, but I don't think there's been a recent series that they've had a whole bunch of physical extras. I can't remember. I'm not really up to date with a lot of Funimation stuff. Anyway, phenomenal series. Definitely check this out. It's streaming a lot of places. I think it's on Netflix. I can't remember. It's on Crunchyroll, definitely, because that's where I watched it. And I'm sure it's on Funimation. And wherever, here in Australia, it's on Anime Lab. But yeah, this is the story of a middle school boy called Shigeo, aka Mob, who has psychic ESP powers, and works for a shady businessman, shady con man, not a businessman, called Reagan, who is his quote-unquote master. He is the one who supposedly is teaching Mob how to use and protect and like develop his powers, but really he's just using Mob to take advantage of his powers to kind of solve all of these paranormal problems that people come to him to fix. And it's about Mob and his life and trying to grow up as a normal teenager when you are abnormal. Obviously he has his psychic abilities, but then also having that balance between knowing your strengths and weaknesses, but not feeling superior because of them. And despite Reagan being a pretty slimy con man, he is sort of the best role model for Mob. He's the one who keeps him grounded, doesn't give him an inflated superiority complex about him having psychic powers, which in turn helps Mob to let other people recognize that, because he is not the only person in the town or in the world who has psychic powers. And so, yeah, it's really, really lovely. It's very funny. It is hilariously funny. Very sweet. Mob is just a really nice, kind character. He's a good boy. Reagan he's like laughably pathetic, but deep down he's a good guy. And he is trying his best, even when he's not exactly on the up and up. He doesn't actually actively hurt anyone. In fact, he's trying to help people, and by using Mob's powers, he actually is helping people. So although it's a little bit scammy, he actually does what is asked. And yeah, the various people, the various vested interests, other psychics within the city and the country, and their power skirmishes and wanting to take over the world, comparatively to Mob just wanting to have a normal middle school experience. It's really, really good. It's my favorite of the two, as I said. I really, really love this one, whereas like One Punch Man, especially the first season, is impressive. It gets a few chuckles, but it's not nearly as poignant, as on point as Mob Psycho 100, and I think part of that is also to do with the manga versions of this, whereas Mob has and contains one's art style. One does everything, writing and art on that, whereas One Punch Man has a different artist. I'm sure most people know, and that's what people love about that manga, but it loses some of its punchiness, some of its hilarity. That didn't mean to be a pun with punchiness, but it does lose some of its humor, and the characters, I feel, are a little less relatable, a little less grounded, and which is weird to say about like a superhero series, or a weird expectation maybe to have for a superhero series. But One Punch Man is not bad, but Mob is better, is head and shoulders better. Like it's above and beyond. So definitely check it out if you have yet to watch it. Next, we have some US releases, just a couple odds and ends from one of the Sentai sales that I wanted to get before they go out of print, basically. So this next series is not one that I actually like necessarily. It's not one that... It made me angry. It made me angry at multiple points. But it is so rare that we get a josei anime adaptation. And this is Natsuki Rendezvous. I watched this show as it was airing. It is about a young guy who decides to work in a florist because he harbors a secret love for the owner. But she isn't really necessarily open to love right away because she's still trying to get over the death of her husband, who our main character discovers is haunting this flower shop, right? So the husband's still there in ghost form, and he's not too keen on his wife moving on necessarily. And so they kind of come to a agreement, this guy and this ghost, to allow the ghost to take over him, possess him, that's the word, possess his body in order for him to kind of have one last time, day, whatever, have some more time with his wife, because they weren't really able to spend a huge amount of time together because he was constantly sick. And so in doing so, this is why I disliked it, because it was really manipulative towards this woman that both of these guys purport to say that they love, which perhaps they do, but like, she doesn't know about this whole ghost thing. She doesn't know that her late husband's ghost has possessed this guy, so she's like trying to start a new relationship with him, but there's just, it's not good. It makes me really uncomfortable, and then ultimately, like, the whole thing is that it gives this ghost the closure that he needed, and this female character the closure that she needed to move on, to not finish her grief, but to move past her grief, to restart her life, and for this husband ghost to accept that she's finally happy and that he can stop having to protect her and like whatever. But yeah, not a huge fan. Gotta say. It just, considering it's meant to be elements of romance there, and you're meant to care about both the relationships, there's so much that isn't told to this woman, which is really unfair and really, like, again, manipulative-y. The fact that her husband has possessed this guy, so she thinks that she's falling in love with this guy, but it's really her husband, and neither of them tell her, and it's not cool. It is not cool. But this was like $5 or $6. I did want to get it just because maybe I will have different opinions. I don't think so. If I watch it again, but I did want to get it just because I do want to have josei anime in my collection. And at $6 or $7, like, it's not the worst show ever, but it's not good. It's a pretty show. It looks lovely. It's got an interesting aesthetic, very dreamlike aesthetic to it, but I would not recommend it necessarily unless you're really desperate for a love triangle with a supernatural twist, and maybe it does work for that. But yeah, not too keen about how the relationships were handled and the conflicts are handled. But yeah, at $6, I'm not going to complain too much. This is one of Sentai's like older releases where the whole series is on one disc. It is an 11 episode series as part of, or it was part of the no Tamane block. So, I mean, it fits within that programming block. It's definitely not a series that would make it, you know, in the mainstream, I don't think. But yeah, just kind of a buy to have series. It's got its positives, but it's also got some pretty strong negatives. And yeah, it's a hard one to recommend. So if you are wanting to watch it, keep in mind the various caveats that I've mentioned in this so far. Next is a show that I like a lot more, although I haven't actually watched it since it aired. So who knows if I like it as much. But this one I thought was really sweet, and it has something that is very particular to my interests. So I finally, again in the Sentai sale, I finally picked up Tari, the complete collection. This is a coming of age story. I think it's PA Works, 13 episodes about a group of kids who form their own little choir, and just their friendships and their relationships and all the drama and excitement and hilarity and etc. that comes from that. It is really sweet. It's really good. There's 5 kids in all. You can see them here, 3 girls and 2 boys. And like with the best PA Works shows, it kind of feels like a Hanasaku Uroha. It has that kind of atmosphere to it. But it's basically about these kids trying to figure out who they are and growing up and what they want to do in the future, and their mutual interests and love of music and singing, and how forming this little choir with the 5 of them makes them understand themselves, understand others, and how, basically their lives go. It's not a perfect show, definitely not. It's not one that I think everyone should watch or anything, but it's really solid. It has some great characters, I think, from what I can remember, because again, this is another show that I watched as it aired, and I don't really remember a huge amount. I liked the music. I thought the singing was great. As someone who was a choir kid my whole, primary and high school life, then it was definitely within my interests, and they do a good job. It's a solid little show, not too much of a distraction or anything. Not too offensive comparatively to like the last one. But yeah, definitely give it a shot if it sounds like something you're interested in. It's one that I've been just meaning to pick up forever. It's always in the like cheap releases whenever Sentai has a sale. I mean, most everything Sentai does is in the cheap releases. And so it wasn't a huge priority, but I did finally get it again just to have it. Finally, because it's I've been meaning to buy this for like literally 8 years or something. I don't remember when Sentai put this out, but I've been meaning to get it since, and it's been a long time. But yeah, so I don't think there's a dub on this. I think it's subtitle only. Yeah, subtitled only, which makes sense. Check it out if it sounds interesting. I think this is another one that's on, I don't know if it's on Crunchyroll. It's High Dive would have it. It's streaming, I'm sure. So yeah, it's one that you wouldn't, like, if you're wanting to buy a whole bunch of stuff in Sentai's sales or whatever, and you need just something small extra to put you into the free shipping limit or whatever, this one's a good one to chuck into the cart. It's not terrible or anything. It's pretty middle of the road standard, but very likable, and especially if you like choirs and choir music and PA work stuff, give it a shot. Next we have some DVDs also that I got from the Sentai Filmworks sale, or one of the sales. This is a series that I wanted to get because, if you're not aware, Sentai has been phasing out their DVD releases. They haven't released one since like 2017, 2018. And this one is always super duper duper cheap. But I just hadn't gotten around to buying it. It's one that I'm interested in though, if nothing else for the art style. I think it's pretty interesting, pretty unusual. And so I got Wendy Tails, the complete collection. This is, from what I gather, because I haven't watched this yet, this is a 13 episode series about a digital camera club in a high school, and our main character loves the sky, so she just photographs the sky. And then something about wind powers. Which is pretty interesting, and you can tell from this cover and from the back that it does have a very distinct art style or character design to it, which is what initially drew me to the series. It sounded alright. It looked pretty interesting, and I wanted to get it. This as well as all of Sentai's DVDs are disgustingly cheap whenever they have a sale. And as they are phasing out DVDs, I don't think some of their DVD-only titles will necessarily make the jump to Blu-ray, even a standard Blu-ray. So I was wanting to get it before it went out of print, and I was never able to get it, ever. But I look forward to watching this one. It's intriguing. Sounds interesting. You guys know me, I don't typically blind buy stuff in general, but this one I had wanted to get, and I don't think it's streaming anywhere, so maybe it's streaming on Sentai's like High Dive, but I don't watch enough High Dive to get a subscription for it, like to pay for the service, so I was like, it's just cheaper and probably better for me to get the DVD and watch it at my leisure than put off streaming it, and then by the time I watch it and perhaps love it, the DVD will no longer be in existence, super out of print. So yeah, I mean, if I dislike it, this was only like $3 or $4, so I don't mind selling it on. It's not a huge waste of money or investment, anything like that. But I do hope that I enjoy it, because it looks pretty interesting. Finally is a DVD release for a series that does have a Blu-ray release, and has just recently got a re-release, or will be getting a re-release on Blu-ray. But I haven't watched this show. I've been meaning to stream it forever again. Just never got around to it. And the half sets, the two halves of the season, have been on sale forever again. And I just decided to pick these up because I wanted to watch it. If I love it, I don't mind selling on these DVD sets and picking up the complete Blu-ray set once it's released this month or next month or whenever. I mean, I won't be picking it up that month, but I will pick it up at some point. But this is Shirobako, parts 1 and 2, so the complete 24 episode. You can see I haven't opened them yet. But this is an anime about the anime industry, and our characters, building up or learning about the actual anime industry and trying to create a show and learning all the ins and outs of animation and being animators in Japan. It's a series that a lot of people love. It's, I think, obviously pretty, from what I am aware of, a pretty okay insight to animation in Japan and the anime industry. And it's one that I've been meaning to watch for years. Story of my life. And just haven't gotten around to. So at some point I will watch this and hopefully like it. And if I do, then I will buy the Blu-ray. If I don't, then I'll just sell the DVDs. And no harm, no foul. Both of these were like $3 each. Because again, trying to phase out these old DVD sets that Sentai put out many a year ago. But yeah, I think you can get both of these for very cheap. I know a lot of people don't really care about the DVD or Blu-ray difference, picture quality. I used to be the same. But then I was like, I used to have a lot of anime on DVD, and then I never really wanted to invest the extra money for Blu-ray, rebuy things, stuff like that. And I was like, it's fine, there's probably not even a difference. And then I bought the Japanese Blu-ray, which does have English subtitles and dub and everything, for 5 centimeters per second. It was my first ever Blu-ray anime release that I ever owned. And I had bought, I already owned 5 centimeters per second on DVD. And the difference, and I mean, this is probably because it's a Shinkai film as well, but the difference on my television between the DVD and the Blu-ray was night and day. Oh my goodness. And I don't necessarily buy Blu-ray for the picture quality, although that is a big help, or the audio quality, which is also a little bit better, but more so for the hardiness of Blu-ray, the longevity of it. It's way harder to scratch Blu-ray. It's way easier to scratch DVDs, and it's just also you can fit a lot more episodes on the disc, and it does look better. And not everybody's there for that, but I think the whole industry itself, we've seen, especially from Sentai, kind of make this transition to Blu-ray only releases. Discotek also does a bunch of standard definition on Blu-ray, which allows you to fit a whole bunch of episodes on there, but also gives you a little bit of cleaner picture, a little bit, better formatting for subtitles, a little bit better audio, even if it is still just standard definition, which I think is a great thing that for anime companies to do, because there are a lot of shows that, they're not brilliant, and they're also probably never going to get or really need some sort of highly expensive restoration for HD, but people still want, and so it gives people the opportunity to own them and watch them. It has nothing to do with Shirobako, but it is one that I jumped on because these DVD copies were going so cheap, and again, not a huge investment. If I dislike it, if I do like it, I can always sell these on or gift them to somebody as well. Maybe I'll do a giveaway with them, I don't know, and get the Blu-ray set for myself. So yeah. So that's everything anime-wise that I got for this last month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 shows. It's more than usual. You guys who've watched my videos for a long time know that I don't tend to actually buy that much anime on a very regular basis. But the numbers for this was definitely boosted by the Sentai stuff here, the sale stuff finally coming in. This I knew that I was getting on release, and this I found a good price for, and I needed the second half, and this one I found a good price for, so I jumped on it whilst I had the opportunity. But more typically, it probably would have just been Mob Psycho that I would be talking about. yeah, as well as some art books, and of course my being a huge fangirl as it is, my free merchandise, which seems to come in every month, which is fine. I'm happy giving Kyoto Animation my money. But let me know your thoughts on any of the shows that I talked about today, whether you've seen them, whether you haven't, whether they sound interesting, whether you love them, hate them, whatever. I love hearing you guys, your insight, your thought on any and all of them. Do you agree with me that Mob Psycho 100 is better than One Punch Man? Are you surprised at my hatred, well, not hatred, but my upset and disappointment at Natsuki Rendezvous, because you loved it, or you didn't even think about that? Have you seen March Comes in Like a Lion? If you haven't, get on it. It's really good. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, down below in the description will be the link to my Twitter. If you also weren't aware, last week was the very first of my weekly live streams. I'm going to be doing them Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's a morning stream. And that I will be going as through everything that I've read for that week. It's my weekly wrap up. They're not super duper long. I'm trying to stick towards like half an hour, 45 minutes if I can. And it's not like a Q&A necessarily, or feel free to ask questions, but it's more so me talking about whatever manga, novels, etc. that I've read. I may mention an anime from time to time, although I don't watch a huge amount of that stuff anymore on a regular basis. That sounds kind of weird. But yeah, it's something that I'm hoping to do on a semi-regular basis. So if you have the time, and if you're awake, and if you're interested, that will be 10 a.m. Saturday mornings at Eastern Standard Time, which is 10 p.m. my time. But I think it's a little bit easier for a lot of people to tune in that time frame. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I am, as always, G from Simply G, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye till then.